Hello music lovers, welcome back to the Woodshed. This week I've been listening to a lot of 90s country. There's some incredibly hot guitar playing in that era. Brent Mason, John Jorgensen, Jimmy Olander, all of these guys, Pete Anderson, that were playing on records at that time. Not only did they have really white hot solos that had a lot of advanced techniques in the right hand with hybrid playing, alternate picking, things like that, they incorporated a lot of pedal steel influenced bends. I want to help you steal the steel bends. Roll it. Okay, so I kind of cherry picked some of my favorite pedal steel bends that were played on electric guitar through a lot of 90s country. Now, some of the solos, I'm playing a bit of the solo and a bit of the pedal steel bend itself. What I want to do is walk you through several moments of some really cool pedal steel bends inspired by guys like Jimmy Olander and Brent Mason, Pete Anderson. Not only give you licks that they do, but I also want to teach you how to incorporate it into your own playing so you can use these licks in songs that aren't just the covers of their origin. Alright guys, let's take a look at that Alan Jackson thing. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm looking at any of these pedal steel bends is kind of frame out my chord tones. Just look at where they're at and how they're connected. For instance, this is in G. So I see my octaves there. I see 3rd, 5th, 7th, 3rd, 5th. Now all that stuff's just major scale stuff with a flat 7. So I like to look at all those chord tones to see what's happening. Then I like to look at the chord progression. For instance, if we're moving from a G to a C, I like to see everything that's going to happen from a harmonic standpoint. Even though this is kind of simple harmony, just like a one chord to a 4 chord, there's some ways to make the bends clever. So first things first is how you're going to pop into it. Outside of the bend itself, which is just a stock kind of, I'm using my middle finger for that to kind of pop it. Instead of it being this thing, I'm doing. And then I'm using some staccato ghost notes, framing that up. That right there is how you really get that cluck kind of sound, that chicken sound, right? You're gonna staccato those first 2 notes, which is 5, 6, up to root. And then we're going to bend up to the 3rd, chord tones. And then 5th. Here's where the bends get really interesting. We're going to go over to this C chord and look at what's going to happen here. We're going to frame a G minor shape. But we're going to bend this D up to an E. That's going to make it a C7 shape. So, but it's going to sound like this. Takes a lot of finger strength to control that, right? And that move backwards, that gets us back into a friendly blues box for the key of G. That's just G minor pentatonic with a major 3rd. I like to think of it like that. G minor pentatonic with an additional major 3rd. So let's take all of that together. Remember, we're starting on the 5th, even though it's a G. We're starting on the 5th of G, which is a D. Those are the notes, but we're going to staccato it up. This stuff's really hard to play in tune slow, but I'll try my best. And you notice that I'm switching fingers. A lot of like jumping in and out on letting notes ring out and making other ones shorter provides a little bit of that funkiness, that funky rhythm thing that you're going to catch in a lot of this kind of Nashville telly play. All right, another great one comes to us from Dwight Yoakam's catalog. A guy named Pete Anderson played all this stuff. and you're going to catch this guitars and Cadillacs. However, it's such a classy style of bend, you can pretty much use it in any kind of frame that you want once you know the fundamentals. So, with that said, what are the fundamentals? Take your classic brown-eyed girl shape, where you have the third of the chord at the root in the first finger, and then you're going to play 4 and 2, or 4 and 9 if you will, and then you're going to play 5 and 3. You might recognize that shape. Okay, take that shape, we're in the key of A, and we're going to play, but when we get to that, that's going to be outlining the root, right? That's like our basic chord tone. But we're going to take that fifth that's in our middle finger and we're going to bend that up to a 6. And now we're going to have this A6 kind of sound. Right? So we're going to have... And now you know how to apply that in your own playing. It's so easy, but you just play the 5th to the 6th and hold the 3rd in your 3rd finger. That simple. One of the other cool things that Pete Anderson did a lot was jumping strings around while holding bends. It's kind of a Pete inspired section. Now that's not note for note like Guitars and Cadillacs, that's just kind of a little something that I come up with that's inspired by it. You can hear it playing around the 5 chord. Again, looking at your chord tones. And we're going to slide it down. You can hear all the chord tones happening, and it really outlines the changes really well. So let's take it one more time. I'm going to give you that lick. We're going to start on B. And you notice that that's the shift that really makes it cool. One more time, and then we're going to bend from the 4th to the 3rd of the chord, and then down to the root. Root's going to drop all the way down to C sharp, to B, and then we're going to continue with the funkiness up to the 3rd again. And when you get used to seeing this shape right here, that's the classic kind of pedal steel bend you hear a lot of guys play. When you're in that shape, you can play, and everything kind of lays out nicely under the fingers. So let's take all that Pete stuff one more time. Brown-eyed girl, bend up to the 6, back down. A lot of these kind of little sly kind of things that I'm doing. Those kind of bends where if I see a root or here, I know I can kind of play off of that minor third, major third thing. Alright, another great bend happens in some of the Brooks and Dunn's records where Brent plays a really great lick where he ascends up kind of a G dominant 7 sound. And when he gets to the top, he's going from G to D. And it holds on that. And the lick ascends up. And if you want to learn that lick, jump over to Levi Clay's channel. He's got tab on it. Ben Eller's also got tabs on it. Very popular solo. I'm not going to teach you that lick because there's plenty of guys already doing it. This is where it gets interesting on the pedal steel inspired like bends. You're in D. Look at where you're at. This is like rock and roll D, pentatonic. You're really kind of playing around, framing this kind of D. All of those double stops in this are really what make it sound extra cool. You're sitting over a G and you're going up to a D. The little double stops that slide from the D and the root and the third of D down to make a seventh kind of sound. Let you know that you're getting ready to go back to G. One more time. Bend. That's on F and C. And the bends are what's really setting this stuff apart. It's all of your rock and roll bends kind of delivered in a different fashion. This way you get more mileage out of your playing, right? You guys probably all played this kind of stuff. Now you can play it with these double stops and get more mileage out of those same bends. All right, so here's an interesting thing with a lot of Nashville style pedal steel bends. A lot of guys have B benders in their guitars. Now I have an old Fender 90s Tele with a B bender, but it's with my luthier in Nashville that I really love. And it's getting some maintenance. This guitar doesn't have a B bender on it. However, I am trying to talk John Sir into doing some bender guitars because I think it's a lot of fun. Okay, so the bender is a mechanism that usually works from the strap. It'll maybe be at the heel joint or up here. If it's like the Parsons style, you'll pull down and it'll bend the B string for you. That kind of thing, right? So those Diamond Rio records had Jimmy Olander, one of my favorite guitar players of all time. He was big on playing chords and double stops and bending the guitar. He had one for the G and the B. So how do you solve that issue? The way I like to do it is use slides. So let's take that meet in the middle intro with no bender. So that right there is where he would hold and bend. So I'm using slides to imitate the B bender sound. So that lick right there, how I'm doing it, that note right there that's a C sharp, that would actually be played with the bender held up, and he would release it down. That right there is the main part of the lick that gets that really lush open sound, as we playing B, then C sharp, then E, and C sharp. One more time. And the last bend is just implying like another E6 chord. So that's a neat way that I figured out to emulate the B bender without having the actual bender on the guitar. Okay guys, let's hit one of my favorites, which is from Watermelon Crawl. There's a series of double stops that descend down into a 4 chord, right? So we're playing in G, and the solo starts on a C. And And then we have these sets of double stops that walk us down. This next lick that happens is the one I want to show you. Now this next chord is a C chord. It's a 4 chord in the key of G. And he has a really cool set of bends that happens. So let's start by bending up to the 3rd and then playing the root in the high E string, which is our C. So the first move is bending up to E, and then we're going to have the root and then the 7th. So it's like playing this. It's like playing that, but with bends. And then we're going to have this B string pre-bent on the G. And then we're going to have the G string on the D note pre-bent. So the key in this one is to have the note pre-bent to the desired pitch and dropping it down. We're going to bend this one up, pre-bend, and then you're back to G. You can hear how that frames it out. One more time, slow as I can. And now kind of more up to speed. So as you can see, the watermelon crawl solo has a really, really cool bend that you can put anywhere on the neck. And remember, just put your 3rd finger down on the root that you're trying to play that lick over. So if you want to do an E, and if you want to do it, I don't know, in F, it's just as simple as looking for the chord tone, the root that you want to play, put that in your 3rd finger on the high E string, and then play the lick around it. Okay, in closing, with any of these bends, you know, developing the finger strength and the control is really a lot of the battle. When you play these types of licks, bracing the hand against the neck, let's see if you can see that right there, helps me get a little extra strength. Another thing that I do is I use the fingers. So if I'm bending with my 3rd finger, I'll use my middle and 1st finger to bend the string upwards. Especially if I have something like this, where I'm going to bend from this E chord. I'm going to bend that note up to a 3rd. And the middle and 3rd fingers pulling on the string as well, not just the pinky, right? That's the biggest tip that I can give you guys, is like use the other fingers behind the one that's being fretted to help you bend into these notes. Alright guys, I hope you stole some steel licks. Thanks for hanging out with us this week in the woodshed. If you're looking for more tabs, tracks, tones, lessons, videos, or access to my weekly masterclass, then jump over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/AndyWoodMusic. And if you're looking for bookings, hit AndyWoodMusic.com. We'll see y'all next time.